And then, of course, David Copperfield is a client of mine, and when he tours 300 days a year, so he had a couple of shows at the Wang, and I got a call one day from his assistant, and she said, David's in town. He'd like to come over to the restaurant after the show. And I said, sure. And I know the protocol. You got to keep it low key. Doesn't want to be bothered. Just have a nice quiet dinner. As most celebrities like to, basically, when they're on their time, they like to be left alone. So I said, why don't you send the crew over before the show, and they'll be my guests. So about 8 or 10 of them came over, and we had a wonderful time and a dinner. And I promoted that. And some of them I had known because I had worked on a few of his projects. Then he'd go and they'd do the show. And then around midnight, I get a call from his assistant. She says he's going to be coming over now. And I said, okay. So I asked one server to stay. I told the kitchen to stay open. I kept 2 or 3 people in the kitchen. Everyone else sort of had wrapped up. And we had to lock the front door because we don't want that element coming into the restaurant. And I'm just looking through the glass at the atrium waiting. And somehow the word got out, and there's a crowd of people waiting in front of the restaurant for David Copperfield. And I open the door and I lock it behind me, and I'm standing out on the sidewalk, and slowly around the corner at Fleming's comes this long stretch limo, and it comes up to the restaurant, slows down, and the window gets lowered a little bit, and then I see the limo speed up, and it goes away. And I said, they saw there was a crowd here. He didn't want to deal with the crowd, and he's gone. And everyone looks at me, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Sorry. So they all sort of mull around, and they start to leave. And I'm going back to the door, and as I'm unlocking it, this beat-up old cab comes around the corner. Or it actually it had been parked a few doors down, and it starts to come forward. And as I look over, the window comes down, and it's David inside this beat-up old cab. Typical, being the magician that he is, he has to trick everyone into thinking that he's gone, and he steps out of the cab with his girlfriend, a girl named Chloe. And I open the door, they sneak in, and I lock the door behind them. And then, they sat at 300, and we had, and he didn't eat a lot, she didn't eat a lot either, but we had a lot of different food for them to try. And they stayed till about 3 o'clock in the morning, which is, their day for them, because they live on a different, and eventually, at one point I said, can I let the kitchen go? And he said, yeah. I think I kept one bartender, and the server wanted to stay. And eventually I said, David, if you have a moment, if you could sign a napkin for her, she'd be thrilled. But I asked him, and he did, of course. And then I finally let her go. And then they just stayed. I actually went back and closed out and did all the paperwork and the money and whatnot, and eventually came out and sat with them. And around 3 o'clock, he made a phone call. Someone came out, opened the front door. He went out, jumped in a car, and they left.